Hi all, and thank you for joining us for Represent NYC on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. My name is Jonnel Doris, and I'm the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services, where I help unlock economic potential and create economic security for all New Yorkers by connecting New Yorkers to good jobs, creating stronger businesses, and building thriving neighborhoods across the 5 boroughs. Today, we're joined by Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne, owner and founder of WOCstar Fund, and Jeff Lindor, founder and chief executive officer at the Gentleman's Factory. Gayle, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on today's show. I'm a second generation Black woman in tech and business. My mom started in the computer industry in its early days. And so I was blessed to see women of color around me as I was growing up who were in hardware and software and in the early days of the internet. And so no surprise, I went into technology, I went into finance, I went onto Wall Street. And now I get to put all that together to invest in women of color who are starting tech companies.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for being with us. Jeff Lindor.
Oh, thank you so much, Commissioner, for having me. And Gayle, it's such an honor sharing the same platform with you. I was born in Haiti, but raised in the projects in Coney Island, Brooklyn, right? So at an early age, I really just saw just the disparities amongst communities. And we really study Coney Island. It's really diverse, but, the Black and brown folks that live in the community are the ones who are systematically disenfranchised. So having that lens that I then now saw the world in terms of how do I help our community get greater resources. For my career path, I always, worked in the nonprofit space, in banking, also in government. So having all of those experiences, I then said, how do I have even a greater impact? And that's what I started, the Gentleman's Factory, which then create spaces for Black and brown men to, build, share ideas with each other, and also, galvanize the resources so that we could, create a better today and a better tomorrow. So, we're a growing community. We have a physical location in Brooklyn, and we're also digital. And our main goal is, to have a greater impact in our communities.
Well, listen, thank you both for joining me today. As we sort of dive into talk about Black entrepreneurs in NYC, let's really get started. A little bit of an overview of the program. And again, both of you have just been fantastic working with us over the year to bring this program to bear. BNYC, or Black Entrepreneurs NYC, is a first of its kind model in a major American city. Really there to help address the racial wealth gap by empowering Black entrepreneurs. BNYC is a coalition of community leaders, corporate and philanthropic partners, local organizations, and Black entrepreneurs that will design and tailor programs to help these entrepreneurs start, grow, and make sure that their businesses are actually thriving throughout the 5 boroughs. Many of you may know or may not, we recently published a landmark report advancing Black entrepreneurship in New York City, addressing the challenges Black business owners face in all 5 boroughs. In the report, we've identified 4 key areas for further the city's commitments to Black business owners. 1 was to provide equitable access to financing, 2, strengthen connections with Black entrepreneurial community, scale Black businesses for long-term success, and lastly, meet the challenges of the economy tomorrow. We've also come together with our inaugural partners to address the key challenges and respond to the recommendations in the report in 4 real main ways. 1, we're creating the BENYC Accelerator, and through an initial $3 million investment from the city, through the Brooklyn Navy Yard, the Young Men's Initiative, and SBS, we will launch the BENYC Accelerator to help cultivate businesses for the economy of tomorrow right at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. We're pretty excited about that. Secondly, we have world-class business experts who are going to be helping us out here. The city has partnered with Ernst & Young to connect Black entrepreneurs to over 2,000 hours of one-on-one consulting. If you know anything about Ernst & Young and their services, that's a big deal. a curated resource hub they're going to do also, and online learning sessions. Thirdly, we have access to capital and business education. That's going to be helping, they're going to help us, Goldman Sachs is going to help us with this effort here through their 10,000 small business program. And they will support us in facilitating financial opportunities and access to capital and affordable capital for these businesses, and also in business education. And then lastly, closing the digital divide, something we heard about at a tremendous rate during our learning process with these Black entrepreneurs. MasterCard will leverage its Digital Doors curriculum to help entrepreneurs set up virtual storefronts and maximize online sales. So this is only the beginning. What the city just launched just a week ago with the mayor, and we're pretty excited to move this initiative forward. But in your own words, Gayle, can you tell us, can you describe the BENYC initiative? And you were involved, Jeff was involved. Can you guys just, describe the initiative and what it means really to Black entrepreneurs in the city?
What got me excited and what has manifested is that it's giving a voice to Black businesses and Black business owners in a way that hasn't happened before. And is not happening in any other city, quite frankly. And not only is it giving a voice, but it's giving a powerful voice that will be heard and really bring resources into the community. So there's a lot of good intentions out there in small pockets, big pockets, little pockets. But I think for me, what BENYC stands for is a voice and a way to really bring resources into the community. Yeah. And I've been excited to see that it's happened in such a short period of time, right? Like, this is not the talky talk committee. This is the get done committee.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting it done. Absolutely. Jeff?
Yeah, and then just to add on to what Gayle was saying, I think that it's really important that the city of New York acknowledges the disparities gap, and is really leading an initiative to really help Black entrepreneurs, gain greater resources. So with the 3 initiatives thus far, and then also with the publication, it also, puts other cities on notice throughout the country, throughout the world. And it also puts corporate America on notice so that they can really get a greater lens on how to make sure that our community comes even stronger pre and post COVID. So I'm really looking forward to that.
So both of you were BENYC cabinet members. Can you talk us through why you got involved with this initiative?
Yeah, in our work, we see so many business owners and entrepreneurs, and they are doing so much with so little. And so when I was offered the opportunity to get involved, I thought, imagine how much greater those companies will be if we can really harness the resources that exist out there in the marketplace. And so for me, it was an easy answer, because we're going to be able to take good companies and go from good to great to fabulous. And guess what? Society is going to benefit from it, right? The products and services are not unique to the Black community. These are products and services that all consumers, all companies need.
Yeah, and I'd say that when you look at the advisors, it's such a mix of different professions and different lens of thinking. So when you, surround different thinkers coming together, in the meetings that we've had, it was so rich because everyone had different viewpoints of how to tackle the same problem.
And they're practitioners, right? So they're very practical in what the experiences are of current business owners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that brings me to the point. We hear in many communities the concern around small businesses and what this pandemic had done. But this actual initiative started before the pandemic, right? And it started before we were experiencing this, because we already knew and saw from the statistics, the struggle that were unique to Black businesses. So, why Black entrepreneurs, and why now? Why do we have to do this now? for specifically calling out Black entrepreneurs? Why do you guys think that that's so necessary?
Yeah, it's almost kind of like what's happening with our bodies, right? Like pre-existing conditions exacerbate the symptoms of COVID, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with businesses, right? We had some pre-existing conditions that when COVID hit just got exacerbated. And so I don't know that it's a why now. I think it's overdue, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Black businesses are major employers. And by the way, they're diverse employers, right? Women and Blacks are actually very inclusive in the teams they build. So while we may be talking about Black entrepreneurs, we're hiring and building companies that benefit many people in New York
Many
City.
communities. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a why now. I think it's overdue. Let's get going.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, so Jeff, listen, I want to move a little bit into sort of like your personal journey and thinking about starting and growing your business and sort of how you came about to do that. And can you describe sort of that process? You talked a little bit about it before, but I know you were working in government, and then you took the leap, you took the jump, and then you went and to start your own business. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So entrepreneurship is all about solving a problem. So I just identified the fact that there weren't enough spaces, physical locations where men of color can come together, grow, share ideas, and collaborate, and also galvanize resources. So I was looking for that as a professional, and there wasn't enough spaces for that. So then I just said, hey, you know what, like, let me create my own, right? So I took the jump September 30th, 2016. I remember it like it was a birthday, right? And then I was on this journey of just really, creating spaces for us to connect. But, in that, there are so many different roadblocks, but I would say that one of the advantages that I think that I've probably had was the fact that I had a really powerful community of people who believed in me. So, I've raised, just on a friends and family round, like over $100,000 of just, getting the idea off the ground, for which, in my community, that is like a major accomplishment. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not necessarily a lot of money when you look at the industry that I'm going into, right? So I think that access to capital is something that entrepreneurs like myself, but a lot of other Black and brown entrepreneurs face. So, I was able to, succeed because of the network that I had and then constantly evolving. So, once COVID happened, I transitioned everything into digital. And then now we've, expanded all across the country, right? So I think that, it's a combination of just being flexible and understanding the market, but then also, surrounding yourselves with individuals who can help finance you. And historically, Black and brown entrepreneurs has had difficulty accessing capital.
Well, I mean, Gayle, what a segue into your work, right? I mean, I think that is such a perfect setup for what you do and your sort of entrepreneurial journey. But when you talk a little bit about that, also add in a little bit on the misconceptions that entrepreneurs have, particularly around finance. I think that is, or financing their dream. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the co-founder of what is called the WOCstar Fund. WOC, W-O-C, stands for Women of Color. We think they're all rock stars. We think the teams, those inclusive, diverse teams that they build, are really rock stars as well. And so we are a venture capital fund that first and foremost is getting the capital that companies need to build their companies. On the other side of our work is we also work with the entrepreneurs to help them build their companies. So we do a lot around coaching and mentoring and workshops and convening and doing skills-based training with entrepreneurs as well. I think the biggest misconception, though, that people have is if you build it, they will come, right?
Wow.
So everyone sort of takes an idea, builds, and then just opens the doors and thinks that customers are going to walk through, right? The reality is that you've got to build a little bit, test a lot, get a lot of feedback, repeat and reiterate.
Yep.
And then drive to revenues. And so I think the biggest misconception, again, is we build, we think people are going to come, and we think the money to build more is going to come.
Yeah, I mean, that is so true. There are so many other constraints, right, beyond financing. What other observations should be considered, right, when it comes to easing the pressures of running your business? I mean, you touched on it a little bit. Any other things that folks should know as it pertains to the challenges that they are facing outside of financing, because it is a lot more. You talking for just now, you even mentioned in part there about your sort of ability to be tenacious, to be creative, innovative, adaptive, and be able to adapt. Your level of adaptability and flexibility is going to help your business to grow. Jeff just talked about pivoting to sort of online platforms in the majority, instead of meeting physically. Now you're online. Now he's all across the country.
I think Jeff actually sort of hit upon it. And that is that the biggest challenge is that people don't think of themselves as problem solvers. If you really get away from these titles like venture capitalist, entrepreneur, business owner, and you go back to what you're really doing, which is solving a problem and a pain point, I think that's where you start to unlock things that you didn't see before. Yeah. It makes you a better listener, right? Because now you're like, oh, okay, what's their problem? How do I add value, right? Like you get into a different headspace. I think that's what entrepreneurs need to do more of. I think that's one. And then I think also we have to think creatively about how we build companies. I may be talking myself out of a role here, right? Venture is a great financial tool. We need more of it. Only 2% is going to women. Only 1% is going to Black entrepreneurs. Yet the performance of those investments is 30% greater than an all-white led startup team. So the beautiful thing is we're in a space where for my investors, the kind of investments we're going to make are going to be very profitable for them, right? They have the potential to be hugely profitable for them. But guess what? It's not the only financial tool in the toolbox that people should be looking at. So one, I would say we've got to be more creative and open and understanding of all the different financial products available that can help build a company. And then two, I think we've got to remember that revenue is the best investment out there. And so always trying to get to a close, always trying to understand what that customer's problem is. And then the last thing I would say is that we've got to build not in isolation, right? Like it's not like Gayla and her partner just sort of sitting here on an island unto themselves, right? You have to do this collaboratively. And I think it's hard, right? Partnerships are hard, right? Marriages are hard. We see divorce rates, right? So partnerships are hard, but we have to build them in, just like you build in time to go to the gym or you build in time to go to church, right? You have to build time to build partnerships because you can't do it as a solo LLC, a solo Inc.
Thank you so much. And I think you guys are like a great tag team here because Jeff, that's essentially what your social enterprise is all about. Collaboration, connecting, networking, bringing people together, but also having a profitable business in that model, right? Isn't that somewhat like what Facebook and all these other online platforms essentially are doing? You're just doing it the way that you're doing it.
Absolutely. And I think that it's really just important to just know what your product market fit is, right? So, I'm constantly surveying Black and brown men, asking them, hey, like, what's going on in your life? Like, what are the what are the problems and how can the Gentleman's Factory solve it, right? And it's forever evolving because as you see, what happened with COVID, we're asking our current members at the Gentleman's Factory, but men of color as a whole, how has COVID affected your life specifically? So we get into the weeds and into the details, and then we create offerings that really speaks to address what the problems that they're going through currently.
Thank you so much. Listen, as you know, the commitments, and just bringing it back a little bit to the BENYC portfolio, the commitments we talked about before are only just the beginning for the city. Again, doing this, the first ever city to do it, major city in the country, and really focusing this effort on Black business. Are there creative strategies or additional details business owners need to be equipped with, other than what you mentioned around collaboration, around networking, understanding the financial piece? What are the creative strategies that you guys have from your experience that you can share with these business owners?
I would say it's looking at what your resource pools are, looking at who is it that you can go to when you need assistance. So I'll just go back to my, experience running a startup. We had so many different, issues initially, whether it be I needed a bridge loan, or whether it be I needed advice, whether it be I needed an email introduction, etc. Right? So, just I guess like speaking a little bit more in detail about like having that ecosystem of support, because if you do not have that, then you will fail, because you may have the money, but if you don't have the relationships, then your money will eventually burn out, because the things that you have to pay for, had you had the relationships, you wouldn't have probably had to pay for it, right? So I think, and I encourage every entrepreneur to, have that ecosystem where you could make sure that whether, whatever area that you're in, that you have a community of support that could bring you to the next level.
That's powerful. Relationships are the currency of business, right? That's it right there, and that's just powerful. Gayle, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a riff on that, but I think we need to look outside of our comfort zone for where we find those relationships.
Yeah.
And one, it doesn't need to look like us all the time.
Oh, yeah.
B, it doesn't have to have the same passport as us, right? So like we're in a moment now where there's a lot of talent on the sideline, and in other countries and in other states too. And so that retired executive may be really excited to come and help you build your new thing, right?
Wow.
But we got to start thinking like that. And he or she may be sitting in another country, another city, maybe going to another church that's not ours, right? So we got to really be creative in where we go and find that talent as well. That'd just be the little riff on that I would add. And then I think we got to get smart about how we market ourselves and where we look for our customers, right? Just because I may be in Bayside doesn't mean my customer has to come from Forest Hills or Upper Manhattan.
Yeah.
They may be in another country. They may be in Lisbon. They may be in Haiti.
So thinking outside the box, not only of how you approach business, when it pertains to relationships, how you run your business, sort of how you structure it, your operations, those things are important. Your financial abilities to navigate sort of the entrepreneurial process, but really thinking about who your customer is. And I think one of the things that this pandemic has taught us is, diversifying what you do should also be met with diversifying who your customer is. And I think a lot of folks are just focused on a group of folks who are your customer, when others who are probably more excited about you and your product than even the folks that you think should be excited about it. And so that market research is so critical. Listen, in the few minutes we have left, give me this rapid session. What is your vision for Black entrepreneurs post-COVID? In this, what is the vision? What do you think is needed to be said about it? And where do you think Black entrepreneurs will come into play in the sort of the grander scheme of our economic recovery?
Well, so I would say is that my vision for Black entrepreneurs is having the ability to have what is in your mind manifested into tangible things and it being profitable. But in order for that to happen, you gotta have the resources, the connections, the ability for change, and also the passion for you to take your community to the next level. So, you know, that's really my vision. And I'll work tirelessly with BENYC, with Gentleman's Factory, with Gayle, and everyone to make sure that we bring that vision to pass.
And my vision is that Black entrepreneurs and businesses be major employers. They continue to stabilize the communities and families. They continue to be the inclusive employers that they are, and that they push the needle on the innovation that's out there. You know, the cell phone, caller ID, call waiting, that was invented by a Black woman. The call button on the plane when we get back on planes and you need to get the flight attendant's attention, that was developed by a Black woman. The fiber optic cables that are allowing us to even have this Zoom call and be on Represent NYC, woman of color.
I am, you know, I think it's just that sort of pause when folks actually hear that. And it just amazes me every time we do the research and think about the value that our Black entrepreneurs bring to the table, and value historically that's been taken from us, right? And to me, the imperative right now of why it's important for Black entrepreneurs is that we've got to make sure that what happened in the past, where our value that we bring to society and the economy, we did not profit from it. Our families did not profit from it. And we are still living with that deficit. So now it's the change. This is the time to change. What a great way to end this segment. Listen, everybody, thank you so much. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Gayle. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Thanks for you for watching Represent NYC on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. I'm Commissioner Jonnel Doris of the Department of Small Business Services. Thank you so much.